During the national anthem, moment of silence and
gentlemen, before we start our event.
mantap. Sip.
Silence.
What do you think about college? A building with a lot of classrooms? Facilities? A test and assignment? Or a long way to make your dreams come true? But when you get there, you realize that you are not the only one. People need people. Learning from each other and growing together. When you go to university, it's not about building, facilities, and anything you can put on the paper. It's about what you feel in your heart and what you see in your eyes. It's about learning from the best and working together to build something bigger than yourself. Laughter, relationship, and good conversation to build the future together. A long way to trust each other. It's hard work, but a lot of fun. So, we go to university for the education. But at the end, what we take away is the experience. Experience to build a good life. Trisakti School of Management, the place to create professionals and top entrepreneurs.
Welcome to Trisakti School of Management, the place to create professional and top entrepreneurs.
When I was a student in Trisakti School of Management, I have a lot of good knowledge that is very useful for me, especially when I'm working. And it was given to me through discipline and also through enhancing my attitude and how to work in a very professional, healthy, and a creative environment.
Berbagai pelatihan selama kuliah di TSM membuat saya mampu berpikir kritis dan kreatif sehingga bermanfaat bagi masyarakat dan lingkungan, khususnya dalam bidang akuntansi dan keuangan.
Di TSM, aku dibekali banyak banget pelatihan untuk memasuki dunia kerja, khususnya contoh kayak kemampuan berbicara, terus bernegosiasi, bagaimana meyakinkan orang lain. Jadi setiap aspek pekerjaan kita semakin terampil lah.
Bergabung dalam kegiatan-kegiatan organisasi mahasiswa menjadi kesan yang tak terlupakan. Saya belajar mengatur, menilai, menerima, dan mengendalikan diri dari berbagai tekanan di sekitar, sehingga saya dapat bekerja sama dalam segala situasi.
Pengalaman yang tak terlupakan di TSM salah satunya adalah pelayanan dari staf karyawan dan dosen di TSM. Mereka sangat membantu dan melayani mahasiswa dengan sebaik mungkin, sehingga menciptakan suasana belajar mengajar yang kondusif dan juga menyenangkan.
Hal-hal yang berkesan di Trisakti School of Management. Wah, ini menarik nih, karena hal-hal yang berkesan adalah ketika saya menjadi pengurus galeri investasi, di mana di sana saya mengikuti Investor Summit. Di sana saya bertemu dengan para praktisi di bidang ekonomi maupun investasi, dari praktisi muda maupun praktisi senior. Di lain sisi, saya juga banyak banget mendapatkan konektivitas dari teman-teman maupun dari para praktisi tersebut. Nah, ini sangat membantu saya pada saat saya bekerja di bidang investasi. Karena di sini saya mendapatkan sharing-sharing knowledge yang di luar dari Investor Summit tersebut.
Yang paling berkesan waktu student exchange ke Thailand. 1 semester kuliah di sana, pertama kali kuliah di luar negeri tanpa keluarga, jadi kemandirian sangat terlatih, kemudian belajar banyak hal baru, kayak contohnya problem solving, terus critical thinking, terus ketemu banyak foreign students.
Hal yang paling berkesan adalah ketika saya berkesempatan untuk bergabung dengan tim Humas,
di mana saya bisa presentasi baik di dalam kota maupun di luar kota. Itu melatih skill presentasi saya, di mana saya bisa berkomunikasi dengan orang banyak.
Bisa dibilang hampir semua ya berkesan ya. Secara komprehensif saya belajar lah di sini bagaimana secara akademik saya belajar, dapat pelajaran tentang akuntansi dan keuangan. Kemudian secara personal skill, soft skill juga saya dapat dengan saya bergabung dengan di tim marketing. Saya belajar bagaimana public speaking, bagaimana caranya lebih percaya diri, bagaimana caranya menghadapi orang-orang yang saya temui.
Banyak alasan saya memilih TSM. Yang pertama adalah beasiswa, lokasi strategis, dan terdapat international class.
I chose TSM since I got the full scholarship. So TSM really paid for my tuition school fee. And the only thing that I need to focus is only about studying and how to be a successful person. And the very good thing is also I had this chance to be the international class student where I met a lot of amazing people that gave me the chance to be a professional and give me a very good opportunity to compete in a healthy and creative environment.
Dulu puji Tuhan dapat beasiswa full di Trisakti School of Management, kemudian selalu bertahan dengan prestasi-prestasi yang sangat baik, juga banyak alumni-alumni yang berhasil di bidangnya masing-masing.
Dulu Humas TSM pernah datang ke sekolah saya, SMA saya, dan di situ saya tertarik untuk bergabung di TSM.
Saya dari SMA memang passionnya di bidang akuntansi. Memang saya ingin kuliah akuntansi dan saya mencoba mencari kampus. Kebetulan TSM ini dia promosi datang ke sekolah saya. Jadi saya melihat alumni-alumninya juga sangat-sangat bagus. Akhirnya saya memilih untuk kuliah di TSM. Dan keputusan saya tidak salah.
Lagi ngapain nih?
Ini nih, lagi baca pengumuman simatis.
Ya elah bro, sekarang simatis sudah ada aplikasinya kali.
Aplikasi?
Iya, nih gue tunjukin ya.
Gila, aplikasi kita udah canggih banget ya.
Benar bro, kampus Trisakti School of Management sudah ikut berkembang sesuai dengan perkembangan industri 4.0.
Selain itu, kampus kita juga ada banyak kegiatan loh. Yuk kita lihat.
Salam Maria Penuh Rahmat, Kursul Tamu, Maria Penuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, we would like to inform you the rules during this virtual event. You are asked to open your camera for the first 30 minutes of this event. During the expert talk session, those who would like to ask a question may type in the chat column. We will open this event by singing the Indonesian national anthem, Moment of Silence, and Hymn of Trisakti.
Then, we will hear the opening speech from the Chairman of Trisakti School of Management, Chairman of Trisakti Foundation, and Chairman of the Advisory Board. It will be followed by expert talk session with Mr. Dave Ramnaran, FCCA, moderated by Mr. Manis Gitwani, ACCA, MSc.
After the expert talk session, this event will be continued with a photo session, an awarding ceremony, and lastly, announcement of the video creation contest winner.
We would like to acknowledge our sponsor team, without whom our event could not be held. They are
ACCA Indonesia, PT Asuransi Adira Dinamika, ICAEW Malaysia, CIMB Niaga Syariah, Bank Mandiri,
CV Spektra Anugrah Abadi, PT Harvan Trimegah or Educate, PT Adikarya Sukses Bersama, and Hospital St. Elizabeth. These are the activities of one of our sponsors, PT Asuransi Adira Dinamika Autosiling.
Mudahnya klaim asuransi mobil. Cukup pakai aplikasi Autosilin Mobile Claim. Ayo download sekarang. Satu jari beres, bikin mobil bagus lagi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Shalom.
Om Swastiastu.
Namo Buddhaya.
Salam kebajikan.
Warmest regards to us all. Good morning to our distinguished Trisakti Chairman of the Advisory Board, Chairperson and Vice Chairpersons of Trisakti Foundation, as well as Chairpersons of all schools, institutes, and universities coordinated by Trisakti Foundation.
Welcome to the Honorable Mr. Dev Ramnaran, FCCA, and Mr. Manis Gitwani, ACCA, MSc.
We also like to welcome all the invitees, lecturers, senates, students, and TSM relations that are willing to attend this event.
We offer our highest gratitude to God Almighty. Only by His grace and blessings has allowed us to gather in this beautiful morning.
TSM's journey for over 4 decades has been through a lot of ups and downs. Trisakti Foundation established this institution named Academy Accounting Trisakti on 1974 and over-accounting programs for the students. By 1993, Akademi Akunting Trisakti transforms to Sekolah Tinggi Ilmu Ekonomi Trisakti, also known as Trisakti School of Management, and added the management to the program provided for the students. And right on this day, November 30, 2020, TSM has entered 46 years of educating the nation.
Well, and our theme of today's celebration is Transforms You for a Brighter Future. Indonesian Anthem.
Indonesia, tanah airku, tanah tumpah darahku. Di sanalah aku berdiri, jadi pandu ibuku. Indonesia, kebangsaanku, bangsa dan tanah airku. Marilah kita berseru, Indonesia bersatu.
Hiduplah tanahku, hiduplah negeriku, bangsaku, rakyatku, semuanya. Bangunlah jiwanya, bangunlah badannya, untuk Indonesia Raya.
By the chairman of Trisakti School of Management, Mr. Arya Pradipta.
Bapak, Ibu hadirin yang saya hormati, marilah kita mengheningkan cipta untuk mendoakan dan mengenang arwah para pahlawan yang telah gugur mendahulu kita. Mengheningkan cipta, dimulai.
Dengar seluruh angkasa raya memuja pahlawan.
mengeningkan cipta selesai. Terima kasih.
Trisakti berlandaskan dasar Pancasila, Undang-Undang Dasar 45 menciptakan paripurna untuk nusa dan bangsa. Bhaktika Dharma kobarkan jiwa raga. Trisakti paripurna.
Opening speech from the Chairman of Trisakti School of Management, Mr. Arya Pradipta, SAAK MACA. Time is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Erika and Mr. Bedi. Good morning and welcome our honorable and esteemed guest, Mr. Dev Ramnarin from ACCA Global. Thank you so much for your kindness and time to share your experience and knowledge with us today. Thank you very much. I would also like to welcome our honorable Sakti. Yang saya hormati Ketua Pembina, mohon maaf. Yang saya hormati Ketua Dewan Pengawas dan Pembina Yayasan Beasiswa Trisakti. Yang saya hormati Ketua Dewan Pengawas dan Pengawas Yayasan Trisakti. Yang saya hormati Ketua Umum Badan Pengurus dan Pengurus Yayasan Trisakti. Yang saya hormati Kepala L2 Dikti Wilayah 3. Yang saya hormati Bapak Ibu hadirin, stakeholder dan sivitas akademika Trisakti School of Management. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Puji syukur kita panjatkan kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, karena atas rahmat dan karunia-Nya, maka pada pagi hari ini kita diberikan nikmat sehat walafiat sehingga dapat hadir pada acara Dies Natalis TSM ke-46. Sudah lebih dari 9 bulan Trisakti School of Management melaksanakan proses belajar mengajar secara daring sebagai tanggung jawab sosial untuk memutus mata rantai penyebaran COVID-19 di negara Republik Indonesia tercinta. Alhamdulillah, secara agile TSM dapat beradaptasi, di mana awalnya seluruh pembelajaran dilakukan secara tatap muka. Dengan adanya pandemi COVID-19 telah dirubah oleh TSM untuk dilaksanakan secara daring sesuai dengan arahan pemerintah. Kemampuan adaptasi yang cepat, cermat, dan baik tidak terlepas karena memang TSM merupakan perguruan tinggi terbaik peringkat 144 dari 2.136 perguruan tinggi aktif se-Indonesia. Perguruan tinggi terbaik peringkat 25 dari 306 perguruan tinggi aktif se-L2 Dikti Wilayah 3 Jakarta, dan peringkat pertama kategori setia terbaik se-L2 Dikti Wilayah 3 Jakarta pada tahun 2020. Dapat saya sampaikan juga bahwa alumni dari TSM telah mampu berkarya dan berkompetisi tidak hanya di tingkat nasional, bahkan telah mampu berkarya serta berkompetisi di tingkat internasional. Alumni TSM telah menancapkan dan mengibarkan bendera merah putih, tidak hanya dari Sabang sampai Merauke, bahkan sudah di mancanegara. Saya ucapkan selamat untuk kita semua, stakeholder TSM yang telah berhasil membawa lembaga ini untuk mencapai peringkat yang luar biasa di tahun ini. Secara khusus saya juga mengucapkan terima kasih sebesar-besarnya kepada Bapak Ibu dosen serta tenaga kependidikan Trisakti School Management yang telah berjuang dan bekerja keras untuk lembaga ini, di mana setiap upaya yang telah kita berikan membuahkan hasil yang baik bagi kita semua. Saya juga mengapresiasi kepada Bapak, Ibu, sivitas akademika, dan stakeholder TSM sekalian yang walaupun dalam kondisi pandemi ini dapat tetap memberikan pelayanan optimal kepada semua mahasiswa TSM. Seolah dengan bersinergi dan bergotong royong, maka TSM dapat melewati masa sulit ini. Selamat ulang tahun TSM, selamat Dies Natalis ke-46. Insya Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala mengabulkan doa kita agar TSM tetap jaya berdiri kokoh walaupun datang angin badai yang menerpa. Trisakti School of Management transform you for a brighter future. Saya ulangi sekali lagi, Trisakti School of Management transform you for a brighter future. Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati dan muliakan, tiada gading yang tidak retak. Maka saya mohon maaf apabila terdapat kata-kata yang kurang berkenan di hati Bapak Ibu. Terima kasih. Wabillahi taufik wadayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.
Opening speech
From the chairman of Trisakti Foundation, please welcome Mr. Dr. Bimo Prakoso, MPA, MSc.
Selamat pagi, kerja, 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 sukses. Yang saya hormati Kepala LLDT Wilayah 3, yang saya hormati Ketua Dewan Pembina dengan jajarannya, yang saya hormati Ketua Dewan Pengawas dengan jajarannya, jajaran pengurus Yayasan Trisakti keseluruhannya, dan Civitas Akademika Trisakti School of Management, beserta para senior, bekas mantan-mantan ketua TSM. Pada kesempatan ini saya mohon izin sebentar untuk menyapa speaker kita yang dari dan moderator yang dari luar negeri. Today our speaker will be Mr. Dev Ramarain, FCCA partner. He also at ICCA advocate, also ICCA Technology School of Forum, and also become international keynote speakers, and also executive vice president of NABA. Our moderator is Mr. Manish Gidvani, ACCA MSc. He also chief executive officer and founder of London School of Accountability and Finance. The topic today is very important about accounting and business professionals, preparing for a world of possibilities in the digital future. Pada kesempatan ini saya sungguh menghormati dan menghargai Ketua TSM dan manajemen TSM yang sudah bekerja dengan keras sehingga mencapai hasil yang sangat hebat. TSM merupakan perguruan tinggi terbaik peringkat 144 dari 2.136 perguruan tinggi di Indonesia. Juga perguruan tinggi yang terbaik peringkat ke-25 dari 306 perguruan tinggi se-LLDT Wilayah 3 Jakarta. Dan yang paling membanggakan kita, TSM juga peringkat 1 kategori STIE terbaik se-LLDT Wilayah 3 Jakarta pada tahun 2020. Pada hari ini, tema Dies Natalis TSM ke-46, Transform You for a Brighter Future. Ini sebuah tantangan dan sebuah keberanian untuk membuat tema ini. Karena apa? Ketua TSM dan seluruh jajarannya menyadari bahwa alumni dari TSM telah mampu berkarya dan berkompetensi tidak hanya di tingkat nasional, bahkan mampu berkarya serta berkompetensi di tingkat internasional. Alumni TSM telah mengibarkan dan menancapkan bendera merah putih tidak hanya di Indonesia, dari Sabang sampai Merauke, tetapi juga di mancanegara. Maka dari itu, saya harapkan TSM terus bekerja keras, terus maju, bekerja dengan bersatu, berdedikasi tinggi. Sekali lagi, selamat ulang Dies Natalis ke-46. Kerja, 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 sukses.
Opening speech from Trisakti, Chairman of the Advisory Board. Please welcome Mr. Harichan Silalaki.
Hello. Now, transform you all for a brighter future. Wonderful.
Siap.
Wonderful slogan for fighting. But first of all, Merdeka is very important. We want to be a man of freedom.
Yes.
A man that can explore their mind and see what is good.
Thank you very much.
SDLA for Indonesians is for Indonesia. Saudara sekalian, tentu saja saya bersama Jenderal Bimo dan juga Saudara Ketua, Saudara Arya, bergembira dan merasa bangga memandang perkembangan dari sekolah ini. Yang telah berkembang dari suatu kursus akademi, sekarang telah menjadi suatu perguruan tinggi yang tadi oleh Saudara Bimo Prakoso disebut telah menancapkan kader-kadernya tidak hanya di Nusantara, di Indonesia, tetapi juga di mancanegara. Sang merah putih pertaruhannya. Saya berharap dan berdoa supaya mereka nanti tidak ada yang kembali dengan culun karena digandeng oleh KPK. Karena pelajaran dan keahlian yang akan didapat dari sekolah ini sangat dekat dengan orang yang gampang kena kuda. Oleh karena itu saya pesan, di sekolah ini tidak hanya menciptakan seorang yang kuat, pandai, tetapi juga berintegritas tinggi, bermoralitas tinggi. Ini ciri khas Trisakti. Celimen, cilik, yomen. Tetapi cilik yang bisa menghadapi kebutuhan wong cilik. Dan itu benar, terutama di dalam kesedihan menghadapi COVID ini, bahwa akhirnya kemandekan ekonomi di Indonesia tetapi masih bisa tersangga dengan baik. Oleh karena ini disangga, dipertahankan oleh para UKM, usaha kecil dan menengah. Nah, oleh karena itu ini harus menjadi panggilan dari sekolah ini, bahwa para lulusan bisa turut serta mengabdi dan mendampingi para penyelenggara UKM yang sudah ada maupun yang bakal akan datang. Sebab akhirnya terbukti di dalam kesulitan sekarang ini, kalau saya tidak salah karena saya bukan ekonom, adalah UKM. Oleh karena ini harus menjadi resapan, harus menjadi laporan kebanggaan nanti. Karena mahasiswanya, tamatannya telah dapat meresap di dalam lorong-lorong yang miskin di seluruh tanah air. Bukan di Wall Street, bukan di Tiananmen, tapi di Indonesia. Dulu. Nanti barangkali bismillahirrahmanirrahim kita bisa kemana-mana setelah tantangan dalam negeri dapat dipenuhi. Nah, maksud saya bukan mendorong-dorong, tapi ini harus menjadi perspektif ke depan. Nah, untuk menyiapkan perspektif ke depan menghadapi yang konkret hari ini, setelah pandemi selesai dalam pembangunan dalam ekonomi menengah UKM. Untuk itu, menjadi pilihan yang terpenting adalah kita mendidik anak-anak yang mempunyai energi, yang mempunyai inisiatif, intelijensi, tetapi juga anak-anak yang mempunyai integritas, yaitu moral dan semangat etika yang tinggi. Apa itu? Bagi Trisakti sejak semula sudah diciptakan, yaitu Pancasila. Dengan konsentrasi yang khusus, sila kelima, keadilan sosial bagi seluruh rakyat Indonesia. Seluruh rakyat Indonesia tanpa perbedaan dan tanpa halangan. Ini yang belum disinggung. Maka Trisakti menepuk dada di Republik Indonesia kalau dapat mewujudkan ini. Tadi sudah beautiful, saya masuk menerima tayangan televisi ini, saya kagum ini, saya di Jakarta atau di New York, begitu. Indah, beautiful, but beautiful is not enough. Kata seorang milioner Amerika, yang penting adalah integriti. Energi maupun inisiatif bisa besar, tapi tanpa integriti engkau akan ambruk. ambruk seperti saya katakan tadi, dibawa pulang ke Indonesia oleh KPK. Saudara sekalian, saya tidak mau berkepanjangan karena semua ini sudah diketahui oleh semua Trisakti. Dan saya bangga karena nama saya turut dicantumkan di sana dan saya berterima kasih. Dan saya selalu bangga mengunjungi sekolah ini karena keramahan, karena sikapnya yang korek. Sayang, dan saya merasakan duka cita karena orang yang biasanya sangat ramah telah meninggalkan kita, yaitu Bapak Teguh. Bapak Teguh yang selalu welcome kita dan sangat ramah. Ini saya kira juga menjadi suatu contoh-contoh yang meskipun ada di sini, dan sudah tidak ada lagi orangnya, tapi dapat dicontoh sebagai semangat dari sekolah Anda semua. Saya juga berterima kasih karena Anda semua menjadi suatu sekolah tinggi yang berani berdies Natalis, merayakan hari kelahiran Natalis. Karena bagi saya, Natalis itu terjadi setiap hari. Barang kelahiran baru itu terjadi di dalam jiwamu setiap hari. Dan setiap hari itu setelah lahir harus dipelihara dan diberi perspektif. Itu filsafat yang mendukungnya. Tatanan hidup yang mendukungnya. Selamat berdies Natalis, terima kasih. Para pengasuh, Mas Arya memang bukan main, dan seorang pelopor saya harap akan terus berjuang sampai beliau sendiri selesai semuanya. Juga saya dalam kesempatan ini dan atas nama keluarga besar Trisakti sebagai Ketua Pembina Yayasan Trisakti mengucapkan bagi yang merayakan Natal dan Tahun Baru, selamat Tahun Baru. Bagi yang merayakan segala hari besarnya, hari kelahirannya, saya selalu selamat. Terima kasih dan merdeka.
Merdeka. Terima kasih, Pak.
Thank you, Mr. Harichan Silalahi. Now, we go to the next agenda, expert talk session, with the theme Accounting and Business Professionals Preparing for a World of Possibilities in the Digital Futures by Mr. Dave Ramarain, FCCA, moderated by Mr. Manis Gitwani, ACCA, MSc.
I'm February. I'm working at this company called Dino Nobel, an Australian company in the Indonesia business unit. So Dino Nobel is a company specializing in selling explosive products and services. We sell explosive to mainly mining customers in mining industries, and also providing the service to blasting services. My role is now a finance director covering all the areas in finance and also IT. So my job basically on day-to-day, covering commercial and operational finance. On top of that, I also look after things like non-finance stuff, like legal, risk management, meaning that we also have to look up to identify things related to risk into the company's business, plus IT. IT are basically operational IT, infrastructures, and also the implementation of new systems. ACCA is globally accepted in a lot of countries. And a part of that, it covers a much bigger scope than a few others designations. You are not only learning accounting, but there are also some finance part of it, some leaderships, there are some corporate laws. So it's financial management. Those are the most important parts. Once you are going step up higher into the business, you need to be able to master or understand all areas of accounting and finance, not only accounting alone.
And here is the curriculum vitae of Mr. Manis Gitwani, ACCA MSc. Mr. Manis Gitwani has been an ACCA member since 2001. He is the CEO and founder of a London School of Accountancy and Finance, the only gold LLP in Indonesia. He was the first Indonesian to complete the ACCA qualification in the short-term time frame of 2 years. In Ernst & Young, he attained extensive experience in financial reporting and auditing. Besides public practice, he has been in professional education and training industry for almost 15 years. He got MSc title in professional accountancy from University of London. He has many experiences as professional, such as work at LSAF Global Singapore as CEO and founder from 2017 till now, and also worked at PT London Global Consulting as CEO and founder from 2019 till now.
Mr. Manis, time is yours.
All right, a very good morning. It's such a pleasure and such an exciting thing to be here. Thank you, Pa Arya. Thank you for all the committee members who have invited us here. It's an honor. Our ACCA head of in Indonesia is also here, Bu-Hani. So thank you for asking LSAF to be part of this opportunity. And TSM is our partner university, and we take pride in supporting our partner universities in all their education initiatives, including any the latest updates in all the curriculum updates and accreditation and so on and so forth. Yeah. So today the spotlight is on my dear friend, Mr. Dave. I'll be introducing him, and he will be the one speaking. So the spotlight is him, and I'll be moderating this session. Yeah. So let me read out to you his profile. Mr. Dave Ramnarin is a quantum leader, internationally experienced accountant, auditor, a business consultant with 17 years of experience elevating individuals and organizational performance. Yeah, he has experience in 3 different areas: accounting, auditing, technology, and business consulting. He's a partner of CPA by Choice. That's a accounting firm, and also a founding partner of Trudem. That's a blockchain advisory. Yeah, blockchain is a amazing latest, the future of accounting technology. He's also the principal owner of Dave Marine Ramnarin Education that provides ACCA and CIMA courses, and an executive vice president of the National Association of Black Accountants in Miami. He's an ACCA advocate and has been named the 2020 ACCA USA Advocate of the Year. He previously worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers and international clients such as Citibank, Calumet Specialty Products, Angostura, Petrotin, and many other such companies. His quantum leadership approach empowered him to go beyond the books and transform organizations and technology. He's a well-known speaker, a lecturer, He also shares his passion for continuous education at the Trinidad-based Premier Accountancy Specialist School, a leading provider of financial services education in the Caribbean, which he co-founded. From intimate audience to virtual audience of thousands of people, he loves grounding his mastery by imparting knowledge. He was born in Trinidad and currently lives in Miami. In his free time, he composes piano arrangements, reads, writes, and travels. Yeah, so it's such an honor that Mr. Dave is here with us, despite the time difference. Yeah, I think it is. What time it is there, Mr. Dave?
It is just after 10 p.m. Sunday night.
10 p.m. Sunday night. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think the time is yours. It's your time to share with us and inspire us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And it is such an honor to be here with everyone today. So thank you for having me. Manish, can you just confirm if you're seeing my screen? I've just shared my screen.
I can see your screen.
Yeah. Awesome.
I can see it, Mr. Dev.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much. So, like I said, thank you for having me. Yes, I know I am in a different part of the world, but I think that speaks to the fact that as a global community, our world is, the proverbial world is getting smaller and smaller. So thank you for having me at this special occasion here today for this anniversary. And in particular, I love the theme, transform you for a brighter future. And in a world that's transforming so quickly, the transformation of self is of utmost importance. I know globally we're all still dealing with the impact of the pandemic, and there's a lot of changes in how we work, how we interact, how we report, and how we do business has even changed. And it's reshaped how we interact with each other as well. Today's conversation, accounting and business professionals preparing for a world of possibility in the digital future, is of particular relevance as our environment has been transformed and will continue to transform at an even more rapid pace in the future. I was reading an article that had two sentences that stood out to me. It basically said, change has never been this fast. It will never be this slow again. I think that sums it up nicely and what makes today's conversation so relevant and timely. So Manish had already gone through my introduction. I just want to let everyone know you can add me on LinkedIn. So if it is you have any follow-up questions on anything I say, please feel free to reach out and send me an email on LinkedIn, and I'll definitely engage with you. So we have a couple of items on the agenda today. I'm going to look at 4 themes of change: the professional quotient, 5 zones of opportunity, and meaningful work for the digital professional. Now, when I'm speaking about the different topics today, I want you to listen to it from wherever you are. And by that, what I mean, if you're an accountant in the room, then listen from the perspective of an accountant. If you are a lecturer, listen from the perspective of a lecturer. If you are someone in business, then listen from the perspective of a business. Because as I go through, I may use the examples of maybe auditor accounting, but the core principle behind it would be applicable, to whichever part of your career you're in and whatever kind of professional you might be. So how to engage today? Before we get started, I want to request that, we all be 100% in this conversation, so you get what I'm committed that you get by the end of this, because I'm sure I'm committed that whatever I'm about to share with you make a difference in your life personally and professionally. And again, thank you for being here and giving me your attention. So I'm going to dive straight in. So we're talking about the 4 themes of change. And a lot of what I'm saying today is based on research that was done by ACCA and professional insight reports that they've published over the last couple of years. So if it is you want to get more details of any of the items I'm talking about here, feel free to get onto accaglobal.com and do a search for the particular topic, whether it's, the professional quotients or anything, and the articles will pop up. So these four themes of change here, the increase in regulation and stronger governance, is expected to have the greatest impact on the profession over the long term. All members of the profession will be affected directly or indirectly, and to varying degrees, and regional variations will also influence regulations and governance. When we talk about digital technologies, we're talking about all the kinds of technology that you're hearing about: blockchain, IoT, AI, robotics, the different forms of data analytics that are out there, and seeing how much it is playing more and more a greater part in our day-to-day roles, whether that be as an accountant or as a CFO or someone in HR. Like we see that digital technology is impacting our jobs and our daily activities that we're doing in a greater and greater and greater way. Expectations. So businesses, have expectations businesses have of business and accounting professionals will evolve as the business evolves. All professionals will be expected to look beyond, let's say, the numbers and processes, or they'll have to be able to look beyond the numbers and process the skills, not only to meet more frequent requests of holistic and forward-thinking information, but also more frequent ad hoc reporting from ever more demanding stakeholders, as the barriers are eroded between financial and non-financial performance. And as globalization continue, the rate of change and economic volatility increases at the same time. As we as professionals are required to expand on our interpersonal skills to work as part of diverse teams, working with team members with different aspirations, expectations of coming generations, for example. And these skills will be as important as the technical skills we have. So how do we prepare ourselves for the way that the world is evolving and changing so rapidly? ACCA published a report a few years back and detailed the professional quotients. And I think it's applicable to accounting and business professionals, and even extend beyond that. And you'd see why, as I go through the professional quotient, you'd see that its applicability could go across the entire organization. So this is, in a classroom setting, for example, the lens you could possibly look at this through is like, are my students walking out of my classroom fully equipped to take on the world of work? Or in the workplace, am I developing my staff members in a way that have them be holistic professionals? Now, when we talk about the professional quotients, our research, ACCA's research, suggests that to add value, the professional accountant or business person of the future will need an optimal and changing combination of professional skills, a collection of technique or technical knowledge, skills and abilities combined with interpersonal behaviors and qualities. So the professional quotients themselves, we have 7 professional quotients that we talk about. And the first 3, the technical and ethical, the skills and ability, what this means, the skills and ability to perform activities to a defined standard while maintaining the highest standards of integrity, independence, and skepticism. These are the technical areas which are based on, let's say, the accounting profession or whatever profession you're in. But in addition to these, we will be required to have all of the other quotients, as we call them: intelligence, the ability to acquire and use knowledge, thinking, reasoning, and solving problems; taking on complexity, not looking for simple answers, and embracing bigger responses to difficult questions, and then working out what it will take to implement these responses. The creative quotient, the ability to use existing knowledge in a new situation to make connection, exploring potential outcomes, and generating new ideas. Thinking about new possibilities by opening and crafting new spheres, roles, spaces in which people can flourish, as well as holding opposing details in their heads, thinking in a nonlinear way, not dealing in black and white, and hence creatively resolving tensions. The digital quotient, which is also one of the seven, the awareness and application of existing and emerging digital technologies or technological capabilities in areas of practice, strategy, and culture. Emotional intelligence, the ability to identify your own emotions and those of others, harness and apply them to tasks, and regulate and manage them. You know, the embodiment of what it takes to tackle seemingly insurmountable 21st century challenges with a personality developed, poised that plays to their strength and to who they really are. And then vision, the ability to predict future trends accurately by extrapolating existing trends and facts and filling the gaps by thinking innovatively. And finally, experience, the ability and skill to understand customer expectation, meet desired outcomes, and create value. Having a truly global mindset, be authentically committed to a multipolar, multidimensional, non-linear world, and always seeking to improve in this area. You know, some of these may be assessed using, standard tests and other things during an interview, for example. Collectively, this is what the research has shown as a professional quotient of future, accounting and business professionals. And like I say, you could apply this to a lot more other professions as well. Now, as I went through this, it sounds like quite a tall order of what you will need to have as a professional. But when you really think about it, when you talk about vision and creativity and experience and the ethical lens, those are things that are foundational to making up a professional that could actually move organizations forward in the world that is transforming as quickly as our world is. Now, there's a number of trends we see shaping up in careers in the 2020s. And there's a bunch of them on the slide here, and I wouldn't go through all of these 20. And I'll just look at a couple of them. For example, you see, automation is on here. It's no surprise that automation is one of the key trends shaping our future. There are two things to quickly say about automation. Firstly, let's not forget, it isn't an entirely new phenomenon. We have had automation in the profession for some time, but we are seeing the scale of automation, automating possibilities increasing with the advent, particularly of robotic technologies, for example. And we believe that this will be the future, or rather, it will further complement other emerging technologies, what we call MTech, such as AI, machine learning, natural language processing, and blockchain. There must be a nexus between technology and humans will be as we look forward. But let's pick up on a couple of other trends on the list here briefly. New emerging communication tools and technology will change how we connect and work together. And we've seen that during this pandemic, right? this hyper connectivity will provide professionals, accountants with new possibilities for sharing, connecting, empowering, challenging, and adding value to organization of all sizes, of all sectors, virtually and instantaneously across the globe. And what better example of me, being here in the US it's after 10 at night, and I'm in a conversation wonderful participants here today in a completely another part of the world. So these trends, it's very important that you kind of see the value in it and embrace it, because to resist it would be that the change would catch up and leave you by. So we're also seeing organizations transform and all sorts of new business models are emerging. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on, which we expect to provide new career opportunities for professionals, whether as advisors or, as entrepreneurs leading organizations themselves. So, there's some really big trends shaping up here that I think it's a big plus for accounting and business professionals. Now, our latest research identified 5 zones of career opportunity for professional accountants, and I want to point those out briefly. And I also wanted to talk briefly about the quotients, because, as I said earlier, the quotient is a foundational to creating accounting and business professionals that are grounded in such a way that you could sit at the helm of an organization. Now, these are the 5 zones of opportunities that in some of our research at ACCA that we've come up with, that it's applicable. And I would briefly go through these. So one is the assurance advocate. Here, we champion the role of professional accountants in providing assurance as to the sustainability of organization. We see the rising importance of activities such as effective risk management, forward-looking and technology-driven future audit practices, as well as sound practice in internal control and regulatory adherence. Now, the other one here, the second one there, the business transformer, we see the professional accountant and the business professional can be business transformers. Here, there are some truly brilliant emerging opportunities. One obvious area is the rapid transformation of innovative, smaller accounting firms, for example, that are digitally transforming client businesses. This is the smaller accounting firms reimagining as the true business advisor with a refocused service offering around business growth and affording professional accountants the opportunity to be the de facto trusted small business advisor, changing the nature of client relationship from traditional accounting advice to broader business advice work. And then we have the data navigator. So as I mentioned before, how data possibilities will reshape the roles of professional accountants, where data becomes readily available. You're using technology to get different data more quickly. We expect growing areas of opportunity for professional accountants as business partners and analysts using growing multi-rich data sets to better inform strategic decision-making and forward-looking insights that help support and sustain business for the future as data becomes a source of competitive advantage. Then we have the digital playmaker. The 4th area of opportunity here, we see, we know that technology transformation is key to driving sustainable organizational growth. Professional accountants have real opportunities to champion technology in finance teams and across wider business. As technology changes, they will have new opportunities to develop deeper digital expertise or support technology implementation and change programs. There are also key emerging opportunities to advocate and lead strong data governance across organizations where the benefit of technology investment can be maximized. The sustainable or sustainability trailblazer. This is at the heart of performance management in that organization. Here a professional could play a future key role in establishing reporting frameworks that capture, evaluate, and report the activities that truly drive value in ways that are more meaningful and transparent to the outside world, building on the core financial expertise, but advocating, well, not only building on that, but advocating for and delivering wider disclosures. So as you can see here, these are 5 zones of opportunities. It's broadening the horizon of how accounting and business professionals can differentiate and actually keep building and creating opportunities as the world around us keeps transforming. Now, let's talk about meaningful work. ACCA published a report, Meaningful Work in the Digital Profession, Roadmap Beyond the Pandemic. And there's a lot that I would like to say here, so I'll try to cover as much as possible. So, first of all, by meaningful work, we mean a relationship with one's work that goes beyond the basic minimum, where you do it because it has to be done, or to pay the bills, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but what we're referring to here is a level of engagement and motivation that goes beyond the basic level. This particularly matter currently and beyond because, with the impact of COVID, there's a lot of job uncertainty, and those who are more deeply connected to their work are more likely to be able to find the resilience needed in tough times. So the report is talking about the idea of meaningful work from the specific perspective of what it means for accountancy and finance practitioners seeking to move forward, or to move towards work with greater component of digital. This could be about using more digital tools in the day-to-day work, new types of job roles, and focus on digital skills, delivering new service to clients based on digital capabilities, and the list could go on and on here. Now, the report sets out a practical roadmap that enables accountancy and finance professionals to move towards creating meaningful work for themselves with a strong digital component. This roadmap, which we will discuss in more detail shortly, sets out the steps of scanning the digital landscape, being repurposed or purpose-led, assessing strategic fit, and ultimately delivering outcomes in the role itself. It is worth noticing that while I mentioned the relevance of meaningful work for resiliency during the pandemic and beyond the pandemic, the roadmap also has relevancy, beyond, not just about the pandemic. In an otherwise tough operating environment due to the pandemic, I hope the content would be of some help and shed some light as I go through. Now, this particular report was done in conjunction, globally between ACCA and EY, and it's grounded in the realities being experienced by practitioners. The report is informed by a number of interviews, as you see here on the slide, And that's where a lot of the data and the information that we're about to go through would have emanated from. So I'm going to cover two broad things today: scanning the digital landscape and a roadmap for the digital profession. I'll spend a bit more time on the first item, which is important context for creating meaningful work, and then I'll reflect on the path ahead with the final section of the roadmap. So, as an example here, let's just use the journey of ACCA. In the early 80s, the arrival of mass desktop computing and spreadsheet was flagged as an existential threat for accountants. As it happens, ACCA membership, doubled between this period and the mid 90s. In the mid 90s, the arrival of the internet and mobility solution using laptops and mobile phones brought in the new era for new questions. Again, as it happened, ACCA membership doubled between this period and mid 2000s. And from the mid 2000s, the focus shifted to sophisticated ERP systems, smartphones with internet on the go and cloud computing. And yet again, we saw that ACCA membership doubled between this period and the 2010s. Now, as we reflect on this, let me say that past is not an indication of the future. The fact that ACCA and indeed the profession has managed to retain its relevance in the face of past technological innovation doesn't mean that we can be complacent about the future. Cognitive tech like AI and fundamental disruptors like blockchain presents new questions. But the point of my demonstration here was that the profession has a lot to offer and should embrace digital as a source of opportunity for new skills and higher value work. Two large-scale shifts will also have an effect. The first is that the world's labor force peaked in 2012 and is now in decline as population growth rates slow down. Some commentators, with a focus on asset allocation impact, have suggested that we are at the start of a demographic transition that will increase the bargaining power of labor. So in other words, it's a good time to be in the workforce. The second is the growth in the service sector as a share of the whole economy. In the UK, the US, and France, this sector now represents 80% of economic activity, possibly a peak level, and 70% in Germany. Even in emerging markets, China, India, we have seen transitioning towards services while their share of manufacturing is below the peak seen during, seen in richer economy. Service sectors are hard or harder to automate precisely because they involve service. The quality of labor and its social construction becomes part of the delivery to the customer. Well done. This typically involves soft skills, even emotional labor. For professional accountants and business professionals with a balanced, well-rounded skill set, it makes it harder for the tech to fully replicate what they bring. And again, if we just think back momentarily to the professional quotients, if you bring those skills to your whatever activities or work you carry out on a day-to-day basis, this is what we're pointing to here, is that when you have those well-balanced, rounded skills, it makes it harder for technology to replace those human elements. So in summary, it's important to not get too swayed by the screaming, headlines in the media and on social media, and to recognize that there is a lot to play for and plenty of meaningful work awaiting for accounting and business professionals who are willing to seize the opportunity. Now, with that in the background, let's look at what we mean by, the digital landscape. The first thing to note is that the digital landscape is not just about technology. Tech is at the center, of course, as you can see in my little diagram here. Um, but there's much more to understanding the landscape than just understanding the tech. This includes understanding how tech affects the delivery model for service, the business model to create value for customers, the standards and regulatory regime, as well as the impact on society and public interest. I'll go into each one of these briefly, and I'll start at the center, technology. Now, in scanning the digital landscape, and scanning, as I would keep reiterating, is very important. Having a sense of what is coming down the track is helpful. This provides intuitive sense for the direction of travel. If you think about your organization's, travel or growth. The trap to avoid is trying to understand everything in detail. Scanning the tech at this stage is about picking up signals from a broad range of sources. It's about widening the peripheral vision. We will talk about the relevance to the profession a little bit, but first, it's about recognizing where tech is headed. The chart shows, an anticipated tech development in the near future, 1 to 3 years. And this is a fast-moving picture, and the timelines will differ depending on various points of view. But the bigger message is to recognize that for example, while we talk of cloud, for example, it's important to bear in mind that greater computation at the edge influence how the cloud architecture evolves. Similarly, as we look ahead a bit further, we can see the potential for more sophisticated uses of IoT that can deal with complex unstructured data like visual information, and using edge computing analysis. It quickly, in near real time, as the example with the car number plates highlights when identifying a stolen car, for example. And finally, we look into the horizon. It's clear that developments are in like quantum computing will fundamentally challenge some existing assumptions. For example, it can break most current encryption protocols based on so-called public key encryption. So there are important considerations for areas like cybersecurity and preparing quantum-resistant ways of securing information. Areas like satellite internet, on the other hand, could have implications for global access to the internet, including, say, hard to reach rural or disadvantaged areas with poor infrastructure. This can have huge implications for developing truly global connectivity. And then the delivery model. We talk about embedding into core processes of the organization, the role of the professional, transforming the delivery, interaction with the ecosystem, and digital skill sets. Now, around the technology itself, it's necessary to understand the surrounding factors that constitute the digital landscape. The first one in the delivery model, I'd share a few thoughts about here. So a key part of tech related to the delivery model is the way in which, or the way and extent to which it is embedded into core processes. An example is, EY. They have been experimenting with data analytics in their assurance work for more than a decade now. And what they've realized is that one of the challenges they have is for analytics to end up as a cool thing that separates on top of the core assurance work. So effectively, the audit team does all of the work they previously did, plus additional work to develop some eye-catching analytics insight to share in client meetings. Now, they realized that this is unsustainable and inefficient. They have therefore been developing a global standard digital audit methodology. Now, this is the first and foremost of the mindset. The standards have not fundamentally changed in their intent, in that the auditors is still needed to satisfy certain tests and to assess the risk. The question is, how can one perform the procedures better with data? A lot, of the change is in scoping and strategy and planning. And the starting point is a structured approach to collecting data that reflects a deep understanding of the flow of information through the entity. Now, I'm going to jump to the other item when we talk about the role of the profession here. Now, when we talk about using technology and gathering all of this data and analyzing all this data, that doesn't mean that the role of the human professional goes away. The approach depends on being able to validate the data to confirm it has not been manipulated or contains errors. This needs human involvement. Judgment is needed because manual checks of transactions occur by exception. The individual decides where to put the emphasis, which needs experience and contextual understanding. Higher levels of judgment are now needed earlier in a career. While judgment is needed even in the traditional model, the amount of time junior staff spend just gathering the evidence is dramatically reduced or, in some cases, removed. And all this ultimately results in transforming the delivery. The idea is for the data-driven way to be the sole basis on which the work is done, rather than also conducting sampling in parallel, for example. And, over time, particularly it is embedding it into the core processes. And as we know that as we go through transformation in organization, we could see that happening when you hire new staff. They don't know the old way that it was done. They're only doing the new way, in this case, the digital way. Now, another key aspect of viewing tech through the delivery model agenda is to take on the ecosystem lens. It's really important to understand how the overall tech stacks interconnect rather than getting obsessed with just one type of digital tool or what one type of digital tool can do. So it's about understanding the interconnectivity. I often get a question around which is the best piece of technology to invest in. And when I advise clients, first of all, I always tell them to look at the problem they're trying to solve. And a lot of times, instead of looking at one tech, it might be a combination, which I'll mention a little bit later on in the presentation again. Now, ultimately, when looking at embedding tech into processes of the delivery model, the aim is to avoid forcing technology onto a bad process. Amplifying something bad makes it worse. And equally, to avoid forcing a process onto badly functioning technology, as where multiple ERP systems are band-aided together, for example. Now, finally, I'd like to reflect on the aspect of building digital skills. Accountants, finance, and business professionals can add additional value if they have skills beyond core, the core skills that they've studied. Now, the emphasis in this section is that digital skills, it's on digital skills, but it's worth noting that these must be accompanied by a balanced mix, including human competences like emotional intelligence. And this wider multidisciplinary skill set is referred to. So again, I'm just kind of circling back to the professional quotient and the need to really have that balance when you're looking at, saying, okay, I want to become digitally savvy, and you want to make sure you build in all of the other quotient to have that balance. Now, the business model, as you can see here, we're talking about organizations, reach out to consumer in different ways. More than ever before, this is a consumer-driven age, as we know in the social media world, right? Uh, with consumer to consumer and consumer to business models shaping the structure of the marketplace. Platform-based business models, online marketplaces have shifted their value extraction from product or service delivery for the end user to mining data assets obtained as an intermediary. Now, you know, we've seen this transformation occurring, and each business inside of this have to understand, how is their customers interacting, because customer to customer and customer to business, because it will change how you gather data and how you market to your customers, how you sell to them, and it's important to understand that. Now, customers reach out to organization in a different way. So organizations reach out to them differently, customers reach out to them differently. There is a dynamic nature to the interaction between organization and consumers in a digital age, driven by the power of the crowd. Consumers are no longer content to be passive recipients of the outcomes of organizational strategy. They wish to be a part of shaping that strategy. Historically, such outside influence would have been restricted to activists or investors, or shareholders seeking to make their views known. Often this may have been on matters linked to, let's say, management salary or big contentious decisions such as project deemed to be socially or environmentally harmful. But the power of the crowd represents a very different kind of feedback. It often speaks to the day-to-day activities of the organization and what it sells and how it sells it. The feedback could be via social media or other online channels where the views can be aggregated and fed quickly back to managers. And it happens in real time. No one is waiting for the annual general meeting to make their views known, and perhaps more significantly, organizations are acting upon this feedback almost as soon as it is available online. So in talking about that is just to really share how the world has transformed and how information is changing the way we do business and how quickly that information needs to be acted upon. Other part of the model is standards and regulation. As audits, the example I'm using is increasingly embedded with technology. There may be a need for the standard setters to clarify and define what's needed for appropriate confidence and documentation. For example, how the process should be designed, direct third-party assurance on data quality, etc. Or if information is passed via a wireless network, what controls it or what evidence would satisfy, one, that the data is properly processed through it. Now, another factor is needed for alignment across countries and jurisdiction. In the European Union, the GDPR creates strict requirements for data privacy with penalties up to 4% of global turnover. Now, there is a thriving industry of data intermediaries with vast list of data about the general public that they monetize. So there is a need to know the origin of data obtained from third parties. Then the other quote here I have is the data center consumes a lot of power from the power grid. It's a heat ball absorbing electricity. A big priority for cloud provider, therefore, is reducing, tracking, and reporting its company's progress and green footprint. Has leadership buy-in been secured? Are best efforts directed to minimize carbon footprint? Are calculations and assumptions correct? Have we factored in the carbon tax amount and tax regulations on carbon credits? For cloud providers, a differentiating factor moving forward will be how green their offering is. So the roadmap for the digital profession or professional. On the screen, what you see is the roadmap I've been talking about. And reading from left to right, the starting point is to scan the digital landscape. That's why I've spent a bit more time reflecting on, those elements that we just spoke about. There's no point going for a one-off tech-related course. Scanning across the dimensions I talked about is an ongoing commitment. It's a key background activity before even thinking about jobs or work or career, and it's about staying current with evolving digital landscape. This can then be built upon with a purpose-led approach that combines strategic thinking with delivery capabilities, and I'll talk about that now. So, being purpose-led. Meaningful work experiences are closely tied to ideas of fulfillment, well-being, and happiness. Each person has their own definition of what this involves, but the deepest connection to work with long-term resilience and satisfaction requires asking questions that go beyond the financial parameters alone. And a thought experiment to use to test oneself is to consider how motivated and engaged one would be if financial considerations were excluded. Now, in the purpose-led box, questions we ask here: why do I want to do this type of work? How does my attitude to technology reflect my values and belief? How am I, even if indirectly, contributing to a greater good? Assessing strategic fit is about taking a step back and critically analyzing the direction of travel of one's career. People who find their work meaningful are typically those who can look beyond the immediate tasks that they have been set in their current role. They have a sense of how their work fits into the overall picture. And then in the strategic fit, what is the value created for my stakeholders by the work I do? What career path map to the agenda of my stakeholders? What are the opportunities for my continuing learning and development? Now, delivering outcomes on a day-to-day basis is needed to convert thought to action. Being purpose-led can inform which direction the car, so to speak, should move in, and assessing strategic fit can help to decide which roads to travel on or to get there. But to get the car started, it's necessary to deliver on a day-to-day basis. Now, deliver outcomes. What are the key responsibilities associated with this role? What skills and competences are needed to perform this role? How does digital influence the way of working? Now, looking ahead, there are increasing, there is an expectation of an increasing need for technology skills, as well as the ability to think critically, analyze and solve problems, along with leadership capabilities. These skills are vital for problem solving in new types of digital scenarios that have not been seen before. So, looking at this slide here, it looks like it's saying a lot. But what I want to kind of bring you back to is the conversation we had earlier about the professional quotient. And I think I'm saying that like probably the 10th time, the 10th time now. But that's just to tell you how important I see it in developing a holistic professional. If it is you embody the professional quotients, then you are setting yourself up for a level of resiliency in your skill set that would outlast any type of evolution in technology. Now, ACCA reports on future ready accountancy careers. You know, they've pointed out a couple other things here. And again, if it is you want any more details about these items, feel free to check out the ACCA website, and you'll get some more details about the different items on this list here, or any of the other reports you've seen us going through. Now, to conclude here, as accountant and business professionals, I admonish you to take to heart the professional quotients. I promise you, if you develop yourself within each of the quotients based on the role, you will be able, based on your role, you will be able to set yourself apart and in the process create increased value for both, for yourself, both personally and professionally. There is hope in the digital transformation as it represents the wave of change that will continue to revolutionize our environment and how we work, create massive amounts of opportunities along the way. So stay curiously engaged, scanning your digital environment, and be watchful and intentional in securing your place in this exciting future. So I want to say thank you very much for listening. I hope that I provided some context. I know we had limited amount of time, and I'm going to hand over back now to Manish.
Yes. All right, Dave. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing a thought-provoking session. I think we all, while I was watching this, one of the things that caught my attention is when you spoke about the PQ in the context of, because if we develop PQ, things like vision, creativity, these are things which are not will be able to be taken over by technology, because technology cannot be creative on its own.
Yes.
Technology cannot have a vision. That's why the self, what TSM leaders believe. I've been speaking to Bu Friska and some of the leaders. They believe that human development in this era, in fact, is more important than before. Previously, we focus a lot on technical training, but now because of the change, in fact, the human becomes more important. Maybe you want to share a bit of thoughts on that.
Yeah. So in another digital technology forum that I was a speaker on, the question came up about the human side of it, and one of the things I pointed out is that in this evolving age, we don't have a technology problem, we have a people problem, which is how do we bridge the gap? How do we make sure that we develop the skills that historically we were too busy to do because we were bogged down in the day-to-day transactions and having to, like as an auditor, for example, you go and you vouch all of the invoices, right? Now you could do that digitally. You have, optical character recognition. You put the invoices in, it does all of that work for you. So now you have the time to develop differently. So this is where the quotients of like vision, for example, that you're pointing out, the creativity, becomes something that you have to tap into. Now, I should also say that as accountants, we have been taught to be very rigid and very structured in a lot of what we do, right? And when we start talking about creativity and vision, for a moment, it's like there's a saying here in the US where it's like a deer in headlights, you know, which what that simply means is that the animal is running across the street at night and it turns and you're coming down with your headlights on in the car. And basically the deer doesn't know what to do. You're confused. So it's the same thing. Like as accountants, we have that moment of confusion where we're told that we have to get creative, and then we're trying to say, well, how? How do we do that? So it's where we now need to step outside of the box that we've put ourselves in and see how we could start thinking outside the box or thinking differently to bring about decisions in a different way.
Exactly. I think that's where things are transforming. Transformation starts where you start to think beyond what was your regular way of thinking. Okay, now I have to, sometimes when we get exposures for, like, okay, I have a work opportunity in the business development division, I have a work exposure in the human resource department. Many finance professionals would refuse that. Oh, that's not my core skills, But I've noticed lot of leaders now, they are open to having exposures of variety exposures. They have exposures in different divisions before they become leaders, because now leaders are not specialized leaders. They are leaders like an umbrella leader, who understands the whole thing.
Generalists.
Generalists.
So they could do multiple things. And Manish, you remind me of another thing that's really important to me here, which is leadership and performance and developing those soft skills. So I saw that as important over 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and which had me start putting together materials which if you look at my LinkedIn, you'd see that I'm currently finishing a book about leadership and performance, and this is what prompted me to like say, this is important. Like these are things that we need to possess as accountants, and I wrote the book not with just accountants in mind, but the fact that any profession, you need to have that vision, that creativity.
Exactly.
You need to be able to bring that back. So for me, like I'm passionate about it, and I see it as the core. Like you get all the qualifications, but now you have to have these little magic ingredients, because that's what the world is pulling for.
Yeah, because it's like what you said, it's not about looking cool. It's about actually embedding it to your daily core processes. Yeah. So that's what. Mr. Dave, there are some questions. I think I'll address those questions. There's a question from Dave Kumar from Bangkok. He's asking, Mr. Dave, how do you visualize, with the advent of digital era on accounting and audit, the handling of key issues, the likes of cyber security, and more important, ethical and permissible use of data? So, that's the question about cybersecurity and also ethics.
Yeah, with all of the developments and the world becoming so much more connected, or even organizations, when you think about the connectivity of an organization, you have more exposure. Everyone comes with a device. They have an iPad. They have their own laptops, or your organization suddenly becomes more exposed because a lot of more entry points. And cybersecurity becomes a huge part, because you now need to start looking at assessing that as a key risk within your organization. And usually I've seen, especially middle market companies, sort of not pay a lot of heed to it, and then they end up getting a ransomware or something in the organization and have to pay a lot of money to remediate on the back end. So it is definitely something that's important. And the second part there is as it relates to cybersecurity. What was the other part of the question there, Manish?
The permissible use of data, ethical use of data.
Right. So the ethical consideration now comes in, because, well, not only ethical but also legal. Because, like, for example, in the European Union, you have the GDPR regulations, where that basically prohibits information being used in a certain way about individuals that resides in European countries. So that is definitely something that a lot of organizations are struggling with, because now they may have data in servers in the US or have data somewhere else, and they now need to deal with finding that and putting the necessary measures in place. So it is key, and it's something that I think organization needs to focus on and put more resources on, because it's important for compliance.
So you're saying instead of reacting and something goes wrong and then they react, it's better for them to take these steps earlier.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
definitely. Because the GDPR law is only going to keep evolving.
I think there's also a question from Bufriska. She said, how accounting and business colleges must be transformed to provide added value for students in the digital world so that graduates have greater value in the working world?
Very good question. In relation to that, for example, with ACCA, I'm an advocate, and I, look at, I love teaching and lecturing, so I have connections where I still keep in touch with different schools and university. And one of the things that I advocate for is looking at the syllabus, reinventing the syllabus, adding things in that becomes relevant. And that's the advice that I could give, is that if it is that you're a part of, let's say, a university, and you're a lecturer, for example, one of the things that can be done is to advocate for the update and change of your syllabus to make sure that it includes, for example, elements of the professional quotient. It doesn't have to be called a professional quotient, right? But you could take the essence of that and say, hey, let's just make sure that we're prepping our accounting and business professionals to get out into the world of work, knowing about what it means to think creatively, what it means to, operate from a place of vision, right? So for universities and schools, I think it's very important to just kind of look at your syllabus through a different set of lenses and ask, is this creating future-proof professionals? And then if it's not, then you go tweak and add in what there is, so that way, when someone has completed your degree or your course, that that you're putting out someone in the world that have adopted the various core elements of what you see as being the essence of the tomorrow's professional.
Exactly. And one of the things that I have experienced in the recent changes of education, there's a lot of focus on simulation-based learning. You get them to simulate, okay, this week, you are the CFO, this week you are the CEO, this week you are the technical officer, and then get them to see, the various challenges that they will face, as the leaders. Like one of the things is to develop visions. Even the way questions are framed in ACCA, Dave, now most of the questions are focused on advice and discuss, and students get confused because they normally have a black and white answer. Everything is either yes or no. But now we are supposed to give, this is possible, that is also possible. These are the pros, these are the cons, and this is good for you if. So this, ability to think like that, it's an interesting way of developing the students.
And I think, Manish, you're pointing to the creativity aspect as well, right? Like, being able to think and have other solutions available or other pieces of advice. It does take tapping into that. And that could only come from doing it over and over. And like you said, the simulations are very important as well, where if it is that you could simulate some of those decision making, your brain starts getting the opportunity to think that way. And it's just like going to the gym. You work out your bicep once and it looks good, and then you're like, okay, I don't need to work it out anymore. But then you realize, okay, if I want to keep my body looking in a certain way, then I got to keep working that muscle. It's the same way when you've done that simulation once. It's like you've worked that muscle once, but you got to keep doing it over and over and over again to get the level of mastery.
Yes. I believe that the power of repetition. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, there's a question from Dev Kumar also. He said, Mr. Dave, if you permit, okay, yeah, he said, how do you see COSO, Internal Control Framework, applicability in its present state under rapid speed digital transformation?
So COSO, I've been using COSO for most of my professional life, working and I think it's a very robust model, and the core elements. I don't see the core elements of COSO changing. What I do see is that what goes into the model will change. So when you look at, for example, the control environment, and you look at management commitment, the philosophy, the operating style, you look at the human resource policies, and you start looking at these individual items within COSO, this is where I see the change happening, not necessarily in the elements of COSO itself, but what goes into the elements. So when you talk about management risk appetite, or you talk about those kinds of things, then that's where I see the transformation happening, is inside of those particular elements versus the framework itself. Does that make sense, Manish?
Yeah. So it is the processes inside that are changing because of the transformation.
Yeah.
Understand. There's also a question from you, Peter Gulo. He said, Mr. Dave, how do you think the readiness of higher education institutions to adapt to the changes as you have explained so completely? How do you think the higher education institutions are ready to face these changes? Because they face a lot of problems in there's regulatory changes.
Yeah.
Of course, in Indonesia we are facing an interesting phenomena where our minister is an ex-founder of one of the first unicorns. Maybe you've heard about Gojek. Yeah. So he has created a lot of creative environment here, and he has created this campaign called Freedom Movement, or we say in Indonesia Merdeka Belajar. So the universities are given opportunities to decide how do they want to plan their content, what semesters, how many number of semesters they want to plan forward. Yeah. So there is such environment in Indonesia, but of course, in terms of changes, it takes time. So, Mr. Dev, what do you think about this?
So, higher education, like you rightly pointed out, it depends on the context of the university or the college, or that would really dictate how ready they are. Because sometimes in some universities they are donor driven, and they can't go and change something without the donor basically giving permission, because when they're donor funded, they have to follow the rules of the donor. Or if it's publicly funded, you got to follow the rules of whatever the government rules are about making changes, right? So the higher education and its ability to change, it's normally dictated by a number of factors. Basically how they're set up, how they govern, how it is they're allowed to make changes. And then you have private organizations or university that's able to do it quicker, because they might not be as bureaucratic. So in some cases, those universities are the ones that currently are the first to market. Like there's a university in Cyprus who I believe had the first blockchain degree in the world, right? That was very innovative of them to create something like that and to be first to market. So you do have universities like that are pushing the boundaries and coming up with things that are future ready. So there isn't an easy answer to that question, because it really depends on the actual higher education body and how they're structured and how easy it is for them to pivot.
Exactly, yeah. Universities also are bound by a lot of research work. The lecturers are, that's why it's such an honor that Trisakti School of Management took those initiatives to get their syllabus accredited, even while the lecturers are still busy. They took those initiative, and they are the only institution who has a full 9 papers exemption from ACCA. So I'm particularly
that's
proud
quite
of
an
TSM.
accomplishment.
Yes. So I think it depends on the leadership. The leadership in TSM has allowed such initiatives to come in. Yeah.
That's really, really great. And Just another point for all of the accountants that might be on this call as well, or even people in business. You also have an opportunity now, which is that if you know universities and organizations and you know what's happening in the world out here because you're working in organizations, you could actually go in and say, hey, like I could bring that skill set and help you transform a syllabus, right? So you see, I'm always thinking about opportunities. So there might be many on this webinar that could say, maybe I go market my skills as I know what you're looking for, so I could tell you how to train your students, you know?
Exactly. Because the PQ is actually applicable in every aspect. Yeah. So Mr. Dave, I think to wrap up, I think what I have understood and what maybe different people have understood in different contexts is that the people development is still the core of the matter. We still need to develop ourselves. In fact, with technology, human development has been, or profession of accountants have been promoted. Now our role has become more strategic. Our role has becoming more advisory. We can focus now on leadership instead of sitting behind the computers. And you have provided a very good lens, the road that you plotted out for us. So to give us that these are the different landscapes, be a purpose-led individual, be a purpose-led professional, in order to make sure that your career remains relevant. Yeah, so that falls in line with the values and beliefs of our partner university, who strongly believes, even despite all these challenges and changes, the core of the matter is the people development of the professional accountant. So I think that will wrap up our session. I'll hand back the session back to the MCs. Thank you so much, Mr. Dave.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for Mr. Dev for your willingness in providing a very insightful presentation. And we also want to offer our gratitude to Mr. Manis, who has moderated this expert talk session.
As an expression of our gratitude, Chairman of Trisakti School of Management is pleased to present an e-certificate of appreciation to Mr. Dev as a speaker today, and also to Mr. Manis, who has greatly guided the presentation. Mr. Arya would like to firstly present an e-certificate to Mr. Dev. Please, Mr. Arya.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Erika. Mr. Dev, thank you so much for your time and kindness to share your experience and knowledge with us today. Should you visit Jakarta in the future, don't forget to give us a call. It will be our pleasure to pick you up and show you around Jakarta and our campus Trisakti School of Management. Thank you very much, Mr. Dev. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, then Mr. Arya would like also present an e-certificate to Mr. Manis. Please, Mr. Arya.
Mr. Manis, how are you?
Yes,
I hope you're
I'm
fine.
Pak.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for...
Mr. Manis, thank you so much for your time and kindness. It is a pleasure to have you, moderator.
Yes,
and then
thank you, Pak.
After this, we meet again in campus.
Yes,
thank you very much, Mr. Manis.
We are friends, Pak. Thanks for all that you have organized. I'm always amazed by you, Pak.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, before we go for the next agenda, we would like to ask you to open all your camera to take a memorable photo session. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to give your best smile and also be careful for anything stuck in your teeth. Don't you, Ms. Erika?
Yes,
because you're always concerned about that.
Yes, okay. The best smile. Yeah.
Your big
camera.
Smile.
Okay.
So everybody get ready?
Yes. Yeah. We have here.
We have so many participants today.
Yes, and also photographers that make documentation for all of the participant.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
For every one of you, don't forget your smile. Keep
And
looking on the camera.
And give the best memories of today
Yeah, exactly.
at the 46 years anniversary
TSM
of
anniversary.
Trisakti. Yes, Trisakti School of Management. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you all the participants. Yeah.
Many night we prayed with no proof anyone could hear. In the hearts a hopeful song we barely understood. Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There's healing in us when you believe. Till the hope is great, it's hard to believe. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will when you believe. In this time of fear, when prayers so often proved in vain, hope seems like the summer bird too swiftly flown away. Yet now I'm standing here with heart so full I can't explain, seeking faith and speaking words I never thought I'd say. There can be miracles when you believe. The hope is rare, it's hard to keep. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will.
there can be a miracle when you believe.
Yes, we do believe, Pak Beni. Kita percaya penyertaan Tuhan yang Maha Kuasa dan Maha Pengasih untuk kita semua, Sivitas Akademika Trisakti School of Management, sampai dengan hari ini, termasuk juga dalam kondisi saat ini ya Pak Beni ya, di mana ada sebagian dari kita sedikit mengalami kendala dalam kehidupannya, akan tetapi di sisi lain masih banyak yang memiliki rezeki berlimpah dan berkenan untuk berbagi dengan sesama, termasuk juga di kampus kita ini. Mari kita saksikan bersama launching dari TSM Memanggil.
Yang saya hormati Ketua Dewan Pembina dan jajaran Pembina Yayasan Trisakti, yang saya hormati Ketua Dewan Pengawas Yayasan Trisakti beserta jajaran, yang saya hormati Ketua Umum Badan Pengurus Yayasan Trisakti dan jajaran pengurus Yayasan Trisakti, yang saya hormati Ketua Trisakti School of Management dan jajaran pimpinan Trisakti School of Management, yang saya hormati Sivitas Akademika Trisakti School of Management, yang saya hormati rekan-rekan alumni Trisakti School of Management yang saya banggakan, dan beserta tamu undangan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Pandemi COVID-19 telah membawa dampak bagi kita semua. Salah satunya adalah dampak finansial bagi adik-adik mahasiswa aktif yang berkuliah di Trisakti School of Management. Tidak kurang dari 250 mahasiswa-mahasiswi aktif Trisakti School of Management telah mengajukan pendampingan dalam pembayaran kuliah, dikarenakan ketidakmampuan secara finansial dalam pembayaran biaya kuliah. Untuk itu, saya, Emir Karismar, Ketua Ikatan Alumni STIE Trisakti, mengajak para alumni Trisakti School of Management untuk berpartisipasi dalam suatu gerakan sosial yaitu TSM Memanggil. TSM Memanggil merupakan gerakan memberikan donasi dari alumni Trisakti School of Management dan Sivitas Akademika Trisakti School of Management dalam rangka membantu adik-adik mahasiswa aktif TSM yang terkena dampak finansial, sehingga mereka bisa terbantu untuk dapat terus berkuliah. Sebagai informasi, sejak tanggal 30 September 2020, donasi telah dibuka, dan per tanggal 23 November 2020 telah terkumpul dana sebesar Rp33.900.070 dari 31 donatur. Pada kesempatan ini, saya mengajak para alumni Trisakti School of Management, mari kita berdonasi berapapun nominalnya. Dari nominal kecil, kita dapat membantu adik-adik mahasiswa Trisakti School of Management untuk terus berkuliah dengan semangat kebersamaan dan gotong royong. Melalui gerakan TSM Memanggil, saya yakin maka akan terkumpul dana yang besar. Tentunya dana yang terkumpul ini akan disalurkan melalui mekanisme yang jelas dan akan dibentuk komite kecil dalam penyalurannya, sehingga dana yang diberikan dapat tepat guna dan sasaran. Mari salurkan donasi melalui rekening dana beasiswa Bank Mandiri di nomor 11700555731 atas nama STIE Trisakti. Dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrohmanirrohim atas nama Ikatan Alumni STIE Trisakti, saya resmikan gerakan TSM Memanggil.
Ya, luar biasa Bu Erika, TSM memanggil. Dan tentunya di situasi seperti sekarang ini, dukungan tersebut pastinya menjadi sangat berarti bagi setiap mereka yang membutuhkan.
Betul sekali Pak Beni.
Dan memang dengan berjuang, bekerja bersama-sama, bergotong royong, pastinya itu bisa membantu sesama kita untuk bisa melewati semua kondisi ini.
Betul, betul.
Dan pastinya, Bapak Ibu sekalian, TSM bisa menapaki usia ke-46 tahun saat ini itu karena didukung oleh Bapak dan Ibu pegawai yang selama ini telah berjuang, yang telah berkarya, mengabdi, serta melayani dengan sepenuh hati, sehingga TSM bisa sampai seperti sekarang ini.
Betul sekali Pak Beni. Dan tahun ini TSM memberikan penghargaan kepada mereka yang telah berkarya di Trisakti School of Management selama 5, 15, dan 25 tahun, yaitu
Terima kasih kepada TSM yang sudah memberikan penghargaan karyawan masa bakti 5 tahun. Kami sangat bersyukur dan berterima kasih buat kesempatan dan peluangnya untuk kami boleh bergabung, boleh berkarya dan bekerja di TSM selama ini. Untuk kedepannya, mari sama-sama kita berjuang sama-sama, mari maju sama-sama dan mari sukses TSM.
Baik, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam damai dan sejahtera untuk kita semua. Ya pertama-tama saya mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun untuk Trisakti yang ke-46. Ya pastinya doa dari kita bersama adalah Trisakti selalu berkembang, selalu maju di bidang pendidikan, baik di dalam kancah dalam negeri maupun dalam kancah luar negeri. Dan yang kedua adalah terima kasih saya sampaikan kepada lembaga bentuk apresiasi kiprah saya selama 15 tahun di Trisakti. Ya memang selama 15 tahun di Trisakti ya pastinya ada ya up and down gitu ya. Ada ya up and down seperti itu yang harus dilalui bersama. Nah, tetapi di sini ya dapat dikatakan ya baik. Kemudian dari sisi ya indikator kepuasan kerja sendiri pun juga ya dapat dikatakan puas. Ya artinya kalau memang katakanlah tidak puas ya pastinya ya tidak akan sampai 15 tahun di Trisakti. Ya 15 tahun di Trisakti memang dari saya pribadi sih intinya ya bisa dibilang apa 3D gitu ya, artinya ya dijalani, ya dinikmatin dan disyukuri dalam artian apa ya kita ketemu dengan siapa, kita bekerja di mana, itu adalah sudah merupakan ACC gitu ya dari Tuhan Yang Maha Kuasa, sehingga itu yang harus dijalani dengan ya sebaik-baiknya. Kemudian selama proses menjalani ya pastinya juga harus dinikmati dalam artian ya kita enjoy the proses seperti itu bersama-sama kita membangun Trisakti. Kemudian pastinya terakhir ya disyukuri, artinya ya apa ya indikasi Tuhan kepada kita ya pastinya ya akan kita syukuri karena ketika kita bersyukur untuk hal yang kecil gitu ya, untuk hal yang kecil ya insya Allah nanti akan diberikan lagi yang lebih besar lagi seperti itu. Baik, jadi penutup dari saya ya sekali lagi ya saya ucapkan selamat ulang tahun bagi Trisakti dan ya kita bangun bersama Trisakti supaya tetap terus berkembang dan terus maju. Baik, itu saja. Terima kasih banyak. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Selamat siang. Untuk kesan selama 25 tahun bekerja di TSM ini, kata bangga yang bisa saya ungkapkan. Pertama kali masuk di TSM saya di LPAM, saya mulai tidak dari nol tapi mulai dari minus waktu itu. Saya di ruangan itu sendiri dan waktu itu setelah saya persiapkan untuk membuka kelas pajak dan kelas perdagangan internasional, baru ada Ibu Sri Wulan masuk menjadi ketua LPAM, lalu Mbak Uyip yang di Bekasi itu memegang Keuangan serta Pak Komar masuk untuk bagian umum serta Pak Aan Ahmad Ansari di bagian IT. Di LPM dulu kami membuat program yang selalu keluar kota, seminar ke Semarang, Surabaya sampai Palangkaraya di Kalimantan. Di Jakarta sini sudah sering. Setelah itu kami ada dipindah ke penjaminan mutu. Bangga sekali waktu itu, kalau tidak salah, waktu TSM mempersiapkan untuk akreditasi lembaga. Kita melihat bahwa sampai saat ini akreditasinya sangat membanggakan sekali. Terima kasih kepada teman-teman semua, teman-teman sejawat untuk bekerja sama dari awal sampai saat ini, sehingga TSM bisa membanggakan seluruh sivitas akademika. Terima kasih.
Ya, selanjutnya penghargaan penelitian akan diberikan kepada Bapak dan Ibu dosen serta mahasiswa-mahasiswi yang penelitiannya telah terbit dalam jurnal internasional bereputasi Scopus Q4 SJR minimal 0,15 atau Q3 SJR di atas 0,1.
Ya, dan selanjutnya adalah penghargaan sahabat pustaka. Penghargaan ini diberikan atas dasar kriteria yang telah ditetapkan, yaitu yang pertama, pemustaka dengan peminjaman policy terbanyak selama periode ajar bulan September 2019 hingga Maret 2020. Dan yang kedua, mengirimkan video terbaik testimoni dan pengalaman memanfaatkan perpustakaannya dengan kriteria nilai promosi, keunggulan perpustakaan, kekurangan perpustakaan, dan tentunya saran perbaikan ke depan.
Mereka akan mendapatkan uang tunai, e-book permanen, printed book, dan merchandise perpustakaan yang disponsori oleh iGroup, Spectra, Cengage, John Wiley, McGraw-Hill, Pearson, Emerald, dan Jasa Raya Tamajaya Buana.
semuanya, perkenalkan nama saya Monica. Saya merupakan mahasiswi dari Trisakti School of Management angkatan 2019 jurusan Manajemen. Saya ingin mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun kepada TSM yang ke-46. Harapan saya untuk TSM adalah agar TSM terus lebih baik, lebih maju, lebih sukses, dan juga lebih hebat ke depannya. Saya juga ingin berterima kasih kepada dosen-dosen dan juga seluruh staf yang ada di TSM karena telah mengajarkan kami dengan baik. Dan kami juga berharap agar TSM terus dapat menjadi kampus sang juaranya bagi para mahasiswa dan juga mahasiswi. Selain itu, harapan saya adalah agar TSM terus dapat mengeluarkan mahasiswa-mahasiswi hebat lainnya agar menjadi orang-orang hebat untuk generasi penerus bangsa berikutnya. Sukses selalu untuk TSM!
Ya, tadi sebelumnya sudah disebutkan oleh Bu Erika tadi ya, penghargaan untuk para pegawai, termasuk juga untuk dosen ya. Nah, tidak hanya sampai di situ, tentunya penghargaan untuk mahasiswa juga ada. Yaitu adalah penghargaan prestasi kejuaraan mahasiswa tingkat nasional dan internasional, baik yang akademik maupun non-akademik. Serta penghargaan hibah atas program kreativitas mahasiswa kewirausahaan dari LLDikti Wilayah 3.
Salam bahagia untuk semua. Saya Dahlia Gunawan, seorang mahasiswi akuntansi Trisakti School of Management, ingin mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun kepada Trisakti School of Management yang ke-46. Terima kasih atas seluruh dukungan yang TSM telah berikan kepada kami, mahasiswi dan mahasiswa TSM, baik dalam hal kegiatan belajar mengajar, administrasi, akademik, prestasi akademik dan non-akademik, kegiatan organisasi, dan lain hal sebagainya. Semoga TSM kedepannya dapat terus menjunjung tinggi dan menjalankan misinya dalam rangka mencapai tujuannya, yaitu visi yang telah ditetapkan sebelumnya. Semangat terus TSM!
Halo, perkenalkan saya Vincent Giovanni, semester 5 Prodi Akuntansi. Dan puji Tuhan, kemarin saya diamanahkan sebagai juara 1 Duta Genre Jakarta Barat tahun 2020 dan top 6 di Duta Genre DKI Jakarta tahun 2020. Pertama-tama saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih sebesar-besarnya kepada Trisakti School of Management yang selalu mendukung saya dan membantu saya. Dan juga tidak lupa saya ingin mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun yang ke-46 kepada kampus tercinta Trisakti School of Management. Doa dan harapan saya untuk Trisakti School of Management adalah agar semakin sukses ke depannya, terus berprestasi, terus berkembang, dan dapat membawa generasi muda untuk siap dalam menghadapi bonus demografi, dan tentu saja selalu menjadi pilihan yang terbaik bagi para calon mahasiswa-mahasiswi selanjutnya. Malam banget semangka, makanya pakai garpu. Hei kampusku yang tercinta, selamat ulang tahun dan sukses selalu!
Selamat ulang tahun untuk TSM yang ke-46. Semoga di usia yang ke-46 ini TSM bisa semakin maju, semakin jaya, dan terus menghasilkan lulusan-lulusan yang berkompeten. Sehingga kampus tradisi sang juara tidak terlepas dari TSM.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, siang, sore, dan malam. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Shalom. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Pertama-tama, marilah kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, karena atas berkat dan rahmat-Nya, kita semua masih diberikan kesehatan dan semangat sampai hari ini. Pada kesempatan kali ini, saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada pihak Trisakti School of Management, mulai dari para petinggi Trisakti School of Management, dosen, staf, dan karyawan, karena telah berkontribusi dalam pembangunan Trisakti School of Management dari awal sampai hari ini. Tahun ini, usia Trisakti School of Management telah menginjak usia 46 tahun. Dengan seluruh jerih payah dan pengalaman dalam memberikan pelayanan, berupa pendidikan kepada masyarakat, membuat Trisakti School of Management akan terus menjadi instansi pendidikan yang berkembang dan menjadi kampus bertradisi juara. Selamat ulang tahun Trisakti School of Management. Terima kasih atas konsistensi dalam hal memberikan yang terbaik untuk kami para mahasiswa. Kami berharap semoga kedepannya visi yang dimiliki Trisakti School of Management bisa tercapai dan juga mampu memberikan inovasi-inovasi baru sebagai salah satu instansi pendidikan bergengsi di Indonesia. Tetap jaya TSM, kami mendukungmu.
Ya, dan tentunya penghargaan juga diberikan kepada mahasiswa berprestasi yang memperoleh beasiswa, biaya kuliah penuh, dan beasiswa KIP kuliah.
Halo semuanya, perkenalkan nama saya Yonda Stefani Biantoro, mahasiswa semester 3, jurusan akuntansi di Trisakti School of Management. Sebelumnya saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya kepada Trisakti School of Management karena telah memberikan beasiswa full pada saya. Pada kesempatan kali ini saya ingin mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun kepada Trisakti School of Management yang ke-46. Semoga dengan bertambahnya usia, TSM dapat menjadi kampus yang semakin baik, semakin terdepan, semakin sukses, dan juga dapat mempertahankan tradisi juaranya. Sekian dari saya, terima kasih.
Halo semua, saya Riyadni. Saya ingin berterima kasih kepada Trisakti School of Management karena telah memberikan saya kesempatan sebagai penerima beasiswa di kampus Trisakti School of Management. Saya juga ingin mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun untuk Trisakti School of Management yang ke-46. Harapan saya, semoga kedepannya lebih baik lagi dalam segala hal dan terus peduli terhadap permasalahan-permasalahan mahasiswanya, dosennya, ataupun yang lainnya. Serta semoga terus mengikuti perkembangan zaman dan terus memberikan program-program dan fasilitas-fasilitas terbaik untuk mahasiswa, dosen, dan sivitas akademika yang lainnya. Dan harapan saya, semoga tahun 2021 kita semua dapat bertemu di kampus Trisakti School of Management Jakarta maupun Bekasi dalam keadaan sehat walafiat. Amin.
Ya, selamat kepada semua mahasiswa yang telah berprestasi dan memperoleh penghargaan. Ketua Trisakti School of Management Bapak Arya Pradipta SEAK MECA berkenan untuk menyampaikan ucapan selamat ini secara langsung. Kami persilahkan kepada Bapak Arya dan para pimpinan lainnya.
Baik, terima kasih Bu Erika dan Pak Beni. Alhamdulillah kita semua dalam keadaan sehat pada hari ini. Bapak dan Ibu, adik-adik sekalian, para hadirin yang saya hormati, terima kasih atas kehadirannya, terima kasih atas pengabdiannya pada Trisakti School Management, terima kasih atas prestasinya terhadap Trisakti School Management. Insyaallah Bapak Ibu hadirin, adik-adik sekalian, Bapak Ibu karyawan diberikan nikmat sehat dan nikmat bahagia Allah Subhanahu wa taala sehingga seluruhnya berada dalam keadaan sehat. Jangan lupa ingat pesan Ibu 3M, menjaga jarak, memakai masker, mencuci tangan, dan jangan masuk ke tempat yang berventilasi buruk. Terima kasih. Wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.
Ya, Bapak dan Ibu, saat yang dinanti pun tiba. Berikut ini adalah pengumuman pemenang Lomba Cipta Kreasi Video, Individu dan Kelompok, kategori mahasiswa dan pegawai. Juara pertama akan memperoleh hadiah dengan nominal Rp1.500.000. Juara kedua akan memperoleh hadiah dengan nominal Rp1.200.000. Dan juara ketiga akan memperoleh hadiah sebesar Rp1.000.000. Dan inilah para pemenangnya.
teristimewa harimu. Selamat ulang tahun. Selamat ulang tahun. Selamat ulang tahun kepadamu. Selamat ulang tahun. Selamat ulang tahun. Selamat ulang tahun kepadamu. Hari ini istimewa karena ini ulang tahunmu. Hari ini berbahagia, nikmati saja. Selamat ulang tahun. Selamat ulang tahun. Selamat ulang tahun kepadamu. Selamat ulang tahun. Selamat ulang tahun. Selamat ulang tahun kepadamu.
Ya, keren sekali ya Bu Erika ya, dan sangat kompak
Ya,
dari
betul,
teman-teman
betul.
Trismakoka ya.
Betul
Dan
sekali.
tentunya di hari yang berbahagia hari ini tidak hanya dari teman-teman Trismakoka saja yang memberikan ucapan selamat ulang tahun lewat lagu yang begitu indah sekali. Tentunya juga dari Sivitas Akademi TSM dan juga stakeholder TSM ingin menyampaikan secara langsung ucapan selamat ulang tahun kepada TSM yang akan kita saksikan pada video berikut ini.
Hai para Sobat TSM, saya Hani Karunia selaku Country Head dari ACCA atau Association of Chartered Certified Accountants mengucapkan selamat hari jadi atau Happy Anniversary untuk TSM dan semoga kita bersama selalu bisa berkolaborasi untuk mencetak para future leaders di Indonesia. Tetap semangat dan sukses selalu. Terima kasih.
Saya Konisia Haan, mewakili The Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales atau ICAEW, mengucapkan selamat Dies Natalis ke-46 kepada STY Trisakti atau Trisakti School of Management. Semoga TSM semakin sukses, maju, dan berjaya. Semoga dengan bertambahnya usia, TSM dapat mencetak lebih banyak generasi muda penerus bangsa yang siap bersaing di dunia global. Salam sukses dari ICAEW.
Selamat ulang tahun untuk Trisakti School of Management yang ke-46. Semoga selalu berjaya, maju dalam menelurkan lulusan terbaik untuk bangsa dan negara Indonesia.
Halo rekan-rekan, nama saya Agustina Samara, Chief People and Corporate Strategy dari Dana Indonesia. Saya mengucapkan Dirgahayu Universitas Trisakti School of Management yang ke-46 tahun. Semoga Trisakti selalu berjaya, sukses, dan terus membangun sumber daya manusia yang unggul untuk Indonesia maju. Sukses selalu buat Trisakti.
Keluarga besar SMA Santo Yosep Pangkal Pinang mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun TSM yang ke-46. Semoga selalu menjadi perguruan tinggi yang terbaik, unggul, dan terdepan. Sukses buat TSM, maju terus.
Kami keluarga besar dari SMK Strada dan Mogot mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun untuk TSM yang ke-46. Semoga menjadi universitas yang unggul dan terbaik. Terima kasih.
Happy birthday to Trisakti School of Management. I wish the faculty, the students, and the entire of university a very happy 46th anniversary. Trisakti School of Management always had a great reputation, and I wish a great success in the many years to come.
Halo, selamat ulang tahun yang ke
46.
buat Trisakti School of Management. Semoga semakin sukses,
Semakin berjaya dan terus berkarya.
semoga meraih prestasi sebanyak-banyaknya. Thank you.
Selanjutnya, untuk mengakhiri acara kita pada siang hari ini, Bapak Muhammad Ali Subkan berkenan untuk memimpin kita dalam doa. Silakan Pak Ali.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hadirin yang kami hormati, izinkan saya untuk memimpin doa yang akan saya sampaikan menurut agama Islam. Dan bagi yang beragama lain, dipersilakan berdoa menurut agama dan kepercayaannya masing-masing. Ya Allah, ya Rahman, ya Rahim, Tuhan yang Maha Pengasih dan Penyayang, puji syukur kami panjatkan kehadirat-Mu ya Allah, atas segala rahmat dan karunia yang telah Engkau berikan kepada kami, sehingga kami dapat berkumpul dalam kegiatan acara Dies Natalis ke-46 di Trisakti School of Management. Seraya membacakan doa sepenuh hati kami. Kiranya semoga Engkau dapat meridhoi dan memberikan kelancaran serta membantu kesuksesan kegiatan ini. Ya Allah, ya Ghaffar, Tuhan yang Maha Pengampun, kami mohon ampun kepadamu atas dosa dan kesalahan yang kami lakukan, sehingga dengan niat dan hati yang suci, kami dapat bersilaturahmi dengan para pembina dan pengurus Yayasan Trisakti, Ketua Trisakti School of Management, dan tamu undangan lainnya. Semoga dengan perayaan Dies Natalis ke-46 ini bisa menyatukan tekad kami untuk menjadikan kampus Trisakti School of Management ini sebagai wadah pendidikan di masa depan. Dan bukakanlah pintu hati kami agar mudah menerima segala bentuk kegiatan dan pembelajaran dalam kegiatan ini, sehingga wawasan kami mengenai budaya kampus dan pendidikan tinggi dapat lebih mendalam. Ya Allah, ya Rahman, ya Qawiyyu, Tuhan yang Maha Pemurah dan Kuat, limpahkanlah pula kepada para pembina negara kami rahmat dan karunia-Mu. Semoga mereka selalu diberikan kekuatan untuk terus teguh dalam mengemban segala amanah dan meneruskan cita-cita perjuangan bangsa menuju masyarakat adil dan makmur, sejahtera dan penuh kebahagiaan berdasarkan Pancasila dan Undang-Undang Dasar 1945 dan di bawah naungan ridha-Mu. Ya Allah, Rabb yang Maha Pengabul doa dan permohonan, kabulkanlah segala doa dan permohonan kami. Ya Allah, Rabb yang Maha Pengabul harapan, kabulkanlah seluruh harapan-harapan kami. Amin ya Rabbal Alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, dan tentunya tidak lupa juga kami ingin mengucapkan terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya kepada seluruh sponsor yang telah mendukung penuh acara pada hari ini. Kepada ACCA Indonesia, PT Asuransi Adira Dinamika, ICAEW Malaysia, CIMB Niaga Syariah, Bank Mandiri,
CV Spektra Anugrah Abadi, PT Harvan Trimegah atau Edugate, PT Adikarya Sukses Bersama, dan Rumah Sakit Sin Elizabeth.
Ya, dengan demikian berakhir sudah rangkaian acara kita pada hari ini, dan tentunya kami juga ingin mengucapkan selamat ulang tahun untuk Trisakti School of Management yang ke-46.
Kiranya Tuhan yang Maha Kuasa memberikan kita semua sivitas akademika Trisakti School of Management kesehatan yang sempurna, kekuatan fisik dan mental, stamina yang prima, serta semangat untuk memberikan yang terbaik kepada kampus
atas kita. Amin.
Saya Beni.
Dan saya Erika. Sampai jumpa pada Dies Natalis TSM tahun depan.
Bapak, Ibu, hadirin yang saya hormati, terima kasih atas kehadirannya. Mohon maaf apabila dalam acara ada hal-hal yang masih kurang maksimal atau kurang berkenan di hati Bapak Ibu. Terima kasih atas kehadirannya. Sampai jumpa lagi. Insyaallah. Terima kasih. Wabillahi taufik wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.
Baik, Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, selamat siang. Kami juga mengucapkan terima kasih untuk kehadiran Bapak Ibu semuanya. Dan tentu saja apa yang boleh dicapai oleh TSM itu tidak akan mungkin bisa terjadi tanpa peran serta dari seluruh sivitas akademika dan juga bahkan peran para stakeholder yang selalu dengan setia mendukung TSM untuk mencapai begitu banyak pencapaian sampai pada hari ini. Untuk itu, kami mengucapkan terima kasih dan selamat ulang tahun TSM untuk kita semua juga. Selamat siang.
Baik, Bapak dan Ibu semua, terima kasih setengah harinya untuk TSM hari ini. Sampai jam 12 lebih sedikit. Terima kasih untuk kolaborasinya selalu, Bapak dan Ibu. Sehat selalu dan sukses untuk kita semua. Selamat ulang tahun TSM yang ke-46. Bersama kita bisa. Terima kasih, Bapak dan Ibu.
Oke, baik. Selamat siang Bapak Ibu. Sekali lagi terima kasih banyak Bapak Ibu atas kehadirannya pada acara Dies Natalis ke-46 State Trisakti. Sehat selalu untuk Bapak Ibu semua, dan termasuk salam hormat saya kepada Bapak Ibu yang dulu berjuang di State Trisakti dan sekarang sudah purnah bakti. Tadi ada Bu Sri Yoganingsi, ada Pak Maladi, Bapak Murdian, dan Bapak-Bapak yang lain ya. Terima kasih banyak, sehat selalu untuk Bapak Ibu semua. Kemudian terima kasih banyak kepada tim panitia untuk suksesnya acara ini. Ada Bu Niken, Bu Stella, Bu Niken, Pak Diki, Pak Emir. Terima kasih banyak untuk kerja kerasnya. Ya semoga kita semua diberikan panjang umur sehingga dan sehat selalu, dan kita sampai ketemu lagi di tahun depan, insya Allah. Terima kasih banyak. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Pak Irwanto, Bu Stella, Pak Bibi. Selamat ulang tahun TSM ke-46. Jaya selalu. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.
Menyanyikan sebuah lagu agar istimewa harimu. Selamat ulang tahun.
Selamat ulang tahun TSM. Selamat ulang tahun TSM. Selamat ulang tahun TSM.
Selamat tahun TSM. Selamat tahun TSM.
TSM makin jaya selalu. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu.
Selamat TSM. Sukses selalu. Selamat ulang tahun TSM. Selamat ulang tahun kepada
Jalankan semuanya. Jayalah TSM. Martin. Ulang tahun. Selanjutnya TSM. Ulang tahun
TSM. Semoga tetap jadi kampus juara. Selamat tahun TSM.
Ulang tahun TSM.
Ulang tahun TSM. Selamat ulang tahun kepadamu. Selamat ulang tahun. Selamat ulang tahun. Selamat ulang tahun.
panitia semuanya yang di kampus, terima kasih banyak. Banyak sehat selalu, terima kasih Mas Fari, Pak Diki, Bu Stella, teman-teman yang lain, Bu Erika, Pak Beni, terima kasih.
Terima kasih panitia.
Keren-keren begini ya.
Terima kasih.
Mas Ali.
Ali Supan, terima kasih. Ibu Haji.
Banyak nih suara.
Ketua pelaksana.
Apa kata besar?
TSM, terima kasih semuanya.
Terima kasih Bapak Ibu dukungannya semuanya.
Terima kasih Pak Oli.
Dari Sekolah Tinggi.
Terima kasih Bu Stella.
Asep sudah hadir Pak Sian.
Istimewa karena ini ulang tahun, hari ini berbahagia, nikmati saja. Selamat ulang tahun, selamat ulang tahun, selamat ulang tahun kepadamu. Selamat ulang tahun, selamat